Hey friends, let's work together on your Tuesday assignment, which is a review of Standards 7 and 8. Now the assignment is labeled as a test, but this is not a test. This is just a review activity for us. Your test for this week is your second 9 weeks test, and that is top priority for you to get completed before Wednesday. This assignment will be put into iNow as a classwork grade. We're going to begin with number 1. Use the base 10 blocks to find the sum. Now remember, the value of these base 10 blocks is different from how you may have used them when you were in 3rd or 4th grade. Now that we're working with decimal amounts, the flat equals 1 whole, so think of like 1 pan of brownies. The stick represents 1/10 of the whole, and then the little cube represents 1/100th of the whole. So when we use the base 10 blocks to find the sum for number 1, we need to record that here we have 1, 2 wholes, and 1, 2, 3 tenths, and then 8 hundredths. So that's 2 and 38 hundredths plus 1 and 4 tenths and 6 hundredths. Then go ahead and add. Remember that your decimal point is going to drop down directly below the decimal points that are already there. So your sum is going to be recorded in whole number, tenths, and hundredths, and I'm going to let you do the addition for that. For number 2, we're going to use the base 10 blocks to find the difference. So we're going to begin by recording 2 and 33 hundredths, because I can count 1, 2, 3 tenths, and then 3 hundredths. And then from that, I'm going to subtract 36 hundredths. So this is a group of 3 tenths, and this is a group of 6 hundredths. Now when we subtract, we have to remember to borrow, and your decimal point is going to drop down just like it did with the addition problem. So go ahead and you guys do the subtraction and record your answer for number 2. Number 3 is a division problem. We're going to divide 57 hundredths by 7. So let's look closely at that before we do our model. Okay, here we have an area model. And the purpose of an area model for division is to help us practice multiplying up by our divisor and then repeatedly subtracting our partial quotients until we don't have anything left that we can continue dividing. So the way I like to think of this, just because it helps my brain to always think in terms of money, let's pretend that this is a problem about money, and let's pretend that Miss Lynn has $513, and I'm going to share it with 19 of my closest friends. And I want to figure out how much money each of my friends can get. So I'm going to begin by filling in 19 goes in this box here, and I'm going to pass out some money to my friends. So the 19 represents my friends. I'm going to start by giving each of my friends $10. So far, I've passed out $190 to my friends. So I'm going to take my $513 that I started with and subtract the $190 that I've passed out. And that gives me $323 left to continue sharing. Okay, so I have $323 left to share with my 19 friends. So I'm going to go ahead and give each of my 19 friends another $10. 19 times 10 is 190, which is represented here, and I can go ahead and subtract this $190 from my 323 that I have left over. So 3 minus 0 is 3, and then I have to borrow. 12 minus 9 is 3, and 2 minus... Okay, so I have $133 left to share. So I'm going to give each of my 19 friends $7 more. 19 times 7 is 133. So I can go ahead and subtract the 133 that I have left over, and I have no more money left to share. So the question is, how much money have I given each of my 19 friends? Each friend got $10, then another $10, and then $7. So you figure out how much money each friend got and record it in the blank space. So if you take 56 hundredths divided into 7 equal groups, how many will be in each group? And hopefully when you see 56 hundredths divided by 7, it makes you think of compatible numbers. 56 divided by 7 equals 8. So that's probably a good start to at least get us thinking about how this will look when we divide it. Let's go ahead and shade 56 hundredths. So we need to shade 5 tenths. Okay, so here's our 5 tenths. And then we're going to do 1 hundredth, 2 hundredths, 3 hundredths, 4 hundredths, 5 hundredths, and 6 hundredths. And then we're going to divide that into 7 equal groups. Now, I know that since 56 divided by 7 equals 8, that gives me a pretty good idea that 56 hundredths divided by 7 is going to be 8 hundredths in each group. So when I prove my answer, I'm going to show a group of 8 hundredths here, a group of 8 hundredths here, a group of 8 hundredths here, a group of 8 hundredths here. There we go. And then 1, 2, so this is 6. Okay, so this group of 6 here, I'm going to combine that with this group of 2 here. And then that leaves me with one last group of 8 hundredths. And when I count up my groups, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 groups. So I have 7 groups of 8 hundredths. Now we're going to show this multiplication problem. So we're going to show 1 2 tenths times 5 tenths. And I think this will be easier for us to visualize if we write it out like this. Let's show how much is 5 tenths of 1 2 tenths, meaning we're going to show a portion of 1 2 tenths. Now, whenever you see 5 tenths, you should immediately think, oh, that's the same as 1/2. So really we're showing how much is 1/2 of 1 2 tenths. Here's how we're going to do that. We're going to start by shading in 1 2 tenths vertically or up and down. So here's our 1 whole. Sorry, it's a little messy, but bear with me. Here's our 1 whole. Okay, and then here's 1/10. And here's 2 tenths. And then I'm going to show 5 tenths of that portion that I just shaded. So I'm going to shade 5 tenths of my red. So here's 1/10. Notice I'm going all the way across. 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, and 5 tenths. Okay, and then 5 tenths of 1 2 tenths is represented with this amount here. So your job is to calculate this. How many hundredths do you have here? Or how many tenths? And record it there. That's your product. Okay guys, let's look at number 5. Use a strategy to determine in which division problem n equals 54 and explain how you know. So of course these lines that are provided here are for you to write a sentence about your idea. Before you write your sentence, I just want to mention something that you could do. I don't know if this would be easier for you. You have a choice here. You can either divide each of these expressions and figure out which one has a quotient or n of 54. You could do it that way. Something else that you could try doing is remembering that multiplication and division are the inverse or opposite of each other. Hang on, let me copy this down. Okay, so you could do this division. That's choice number 1. Choice number 2 is take your divisor, multiply it by what you want your quotient to be, which is 54, and see if it equals your dividend. So like for choice A, you would take 19, let me do a different color, do 19, and multiply 19 times 54. If your product equals 1007, then of course A is your correct answer. For choice B, you would do 17 times 54, see if that equals 918. For choice C, you would do 18 times 54, see if that equals 936. And then for choice D, you would do 19 times 54, and see if that equals 1045. Only one of these multiplication expressions will work out to equal your dividend, and that's the correct answer. Remember, multiplication and division are the inverse of one another, or the opposite.